All right, folks, day 12, distance learning. We're almost hopefully done with this. We'll be back, as we are told, in building on Monday, as the goal states. Let's hope we get there. Got those fingers crossed. I hope you do. Mr. G in with you. We're still talking coordinate plane. We're on the last subject, and I always leave the tougher one for the last subject. I know people are still struggling with distance between points on a coordinate plane and how we come about doing that. As I mentioned yesterday in both the notes as well as some of our Google Meets, and I will do this again today with second, fourth, and sixth hour, when you have a graph to look at, getting the distance between the points is no harder than actually counting the spaces between the dots. However, that's not always the case, as the assignment showed yesterday that you had to do from the textbook. Sometimes you're just given the coordinates, the ordered pair, and you got to figure it out. And that's where it comes down to the actual process. The process came down to the two little quick tools here. SS, same, subtract. If it's in the same quadrant, then you subtract the unique number. If they're in the different quadrant, you add. I know, DD doesn't make sense, but it's the best I could get. Instead of saying DA, DD. So, same, subtract, different, add. They both have the D sound, the D. If they are in the same quadrant, we subtract the unique number. If they're in the different quadrant, we add. See? Add the unique number. By unique number, we get ordered pairs, right? We get ordered pairs. For example, here, these blue ones on top at A and B, we have to take out the non-unique or the repeated value, and in this situation that repeated value is our y coordinate, so we don't want that y coordinate to deal with. We want to get rid of that. We remove it from the thought process. Just get it out of there. Mark it out so you don't even think about it. From there, we then look at the two values and see, well, are they in the same or different quadrant? They're in different quadrants, right? They're in quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. So if that's the situation, then we have to add. Different, add. So we're adding, but we need to add absolute value because, as I said before, you can't have negative distance and you don't want negative distance. So we got to look at the absolute values. And remember, absolute values from integers simply refers to the distance from zero. It's not about whether it is a negative or a positive. It's about how far from zero is it. That's the absolute value. That's what it's telling us. Magnitude was the other word for it. So when we get absolute value of both values of the unique numbers in the pair, the -3 and the 4, then it just becomes 3 and 4, just the distance from 0. So we take those distances, those magnitudes, those absolute values, we get them together in addition because they're in different quadrants. So 3 and 4 add together to give us 7. Since we have an actual graph to look at, we can check our work, right? We count along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's true. Now, like I said, with the graph, it is so much easier to see this and to make sense of it. I know that. But you also have to be able to do it without that assistance, which is why you got a worksheet similar to this one yesterday. Now, this one is the one straight out of the textbook. The one that you got was out of the additional practice workbook. You know, the one that you took home with you when we started this distance learning. And sometimes you're just giving these values the ordered pair, and that's all you can work with. That's where you got to get into the beyond regular thinking and get into the critical thinking. Okay. So, what did Mr. Greener say? He said, first see what quadrants they're in to know if you're adding or subtracting. Okay, we have a negative positive and we have a positive positive. The fact that they're not the same, meaning a negative positive and a positive positive are not the same pairing, then that means that we have different. And if we have different, that means that we are adding. Okay? Now we look at these ordered pairs and we say, okay, what are the same values on each one? Well, that would be the y coordinate. So we get that out of our head. Don't even think about it. All we're looking at now are the two unique values. In this situation, we're looking at the 5.4 and the 0.6. Notice I didn't mention anything about the negative because absolute value, that is correct. We need the absolute value only to add together. Yeah, bad board, I know. So 5.4 and 0.6, we know decimal work. We know how to deal with decimals. When we're adding, we line up by decimal. 5.4, 0.6. Mash those together through addition. What are we going to end up with? Our distance of 6 units. Again, absolute value removes that negative and just turns it into the number 5.4. We're not thinking about the value, we're thinking about the distance from 0 when absolute value is engaged. I'm not sure if that's helping some people. I know there was a lot of confusion, a lot of questions, a lot of emails. I'm not getting this. Help me out, Mr. Greener. I'm not sure what's happening. How do I do this? That's the topic of today, just like it was yesterday. If you got this, good on you. Good deal. I don't have an online assignment for you today. Today, as I said in my agenda, is a catch-up day, meaning that if you are still owing me some online assignments, let's be honest, they're all online assignments right now, but I mean Study Island, get those dealt with. The Exact Path, get your time in. If you have assignments that you haven't done for me, get them in for late credit, because it's better to have some kind of credit than a 0 on your grades. I promise you, it makes a big difference. The goal is to test on this stuff next week, so you got to make sure you know what you're doing, right? Clearly. All right, that's all I got for you today. Get your work dealt with. Keep asking the questions. Again, Google Meet's second hour is at 10, fourth hour is at 11, and sixth hour will be at 1. Come in and have the questions ready if you have any at that point, obviously, because that's what the whole purpose of this is, right? Okay, get that work done. We'll catch you tomorrow for the final distance learning day. Fingers crossed.